So this will be the thing that will get us kicked off of, tw- geez, I can't even say the name of the thing we're on. Twitch. Pornhub pulls out of Texas. So this is one of Sam's pieces. So
Pornhub was owned by a company called MindGeek, which rebranded to a company called Alo, and they own like 10 of the largest porn websites on the internet. And I feel like a lot of journalists and publications sort of ignore porn because, either they're embarrassed or they don't want to write about it, or advertisers don't like it, or so on and so forth. And it's like the ALO group of sites are some of the largest websites in the world.
yeah, that's
It's
what I was
like
gonna say.
porn.
Don't
I
they
don't have the numbers
move
in front of me,
most
but
of the
Pornhub is like,
traffic online? Period.
yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't
Or a
know,
lot
even
of
if
it.
you just like go to Pornhub and click any random video, it's like many of them have hundreds of millions of views. It's like we're talking about like a huge portion, like a huge portion of the internet's traffic runs through these sites, and they're every bit as like important of a platform as like a Facebook or a Twitter, but they're often not reported on in the same way.
Right.
Obviously, they have like different incentives and different content types and so on and so forth. But when it comes to like ad tech, payment platforms, like VR adoption, content moderation, especially like deep fakes and AI, it's like these sites are very often where people experiment with these technologies first, and then they kind of get first crack at how to moderate this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and not to rehash some of the conversations that we had on the old stream with Samantha. I mean, yo, a lot of technology, period, going back to, the days of VHS and videotapes and stuff like that, um, got really first usage and first really mainstream adoption, if we can call it mainstream adoption, I think we can, in the porn industry. And, DVD adoption of DVDs, adoption of videotapes, adoption of what, if you would have asked somebody in the early 90s, what video on the internet, why would you want video on the internet? There was an industry of people that said, you know what, actually, I can think of a really good usage of putting video on the computer, back when everybody thought that was silly, because why would I want that? I have a television. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, let's get over to it. So that's a little bit of the background, But so Pornhub, once again, A+ title. Pornhub pulls out of Texas, and
Not my headline. Very good headline, though. Very good headline. um,
so yeah,
so
what's up?
so essentially, okay. So over the last like 2-3 years, about a dozen states have passed very similar legislation is like verification legislation. And this is nominally intended to keep children off of porn sites. And it's like,
Mhm.
that is okay. You can feel about that however you want. But there's like this spate of laws that have been passed, essentially saying like porn platforms have to verify the ages of their users. The problem with this is that we do not have a good way of verifying the ages of users. It's like, for years, it's like, type your birthday
Right.
or click I'm over 18. It's like no
Yeah.
one has in the history of the world has ever lied about that, of course. And so to do this, there's been like this uh, crop of new age verification websites. And these websites essentially ask you to upload your ID to their
Mm.
app. And thus, to like use Pornhub and comply with the law in these states, which it's like, I think Mississippi has it, like Alabama, Texas, I think Florida, and then a couple others. It's just like all of these laws have been passed in the last like year and a half or so.
Mm.
You have to upload your ID, and then you have to upload an image of your face, and kind of like Lord knows what happens to it. It's like the companies that are doing the verification claim that they're not storing any of this stuff, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, you're like uploading an image of your face to this like facial recognition algorithm, and an image of your driver's license, and like who sort of knows what happens to it. And so
Yeah, that's
there's a
kind
lot
of
of
a
like,
tall order. Yo, let me upload my face and my your driver's license to the porn site.
yes,
That's a tall, and again, not even speaking of, I mean, because there's two different, I guess, buckets of concern here, right? There's one that, for the reason that we just described, that porn barely gets, these sites barely get reported on because various reasons, but some of it is probably just people are just shy to, talk about it, period. So they don't want to report about it. But also, aside from that, this is the site and the industry, if you want to call it that, in which that there is stuff like deep fakes going on. So yeah, let me
mhm,
upload all of my identifying information to the website in which hopefully this stuff isn't on it. But I mean, as you can tell, is that they've had issues with this too. So yeah,
right.
tall order.
And then it's tall order, and then also just from a like protecting children standpoint, it's like there's nothing stopping a kid from trying to get through this. So then you might have a situation where some of these ID companies are then like have photos of children's faces who tried to get past it, or something like this. It's just
Uh,
like a lot of like privacy type people are like, this is not a good law. It's like it's too complicated. You know, they've all been kind of lobbied for by the same like age verification technology platforms who, are hoping to get the business from these porn sites. And it's like yet another kind of just
uh,
like, okay, like what's really behind this vibes. So anyways, these various states have
I'm sorry.
passed these
I
laws.
I
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
interrupting you. Hold on.
No,
I'm
you're okay.
sorry.
You're good.
Are you? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is there a suggestion here that, hold on, age verification companies are lobbying for these, trying to get these made into laws, and so this would be a law that would directly benefit them financially because they would hopefully get the contract to provide the technology to do all the age verification and all that. Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean that is exactly what's happening. It's not just the age verification companies that are lobbying for it. There's also sort of like a lot of Christian like religious groups doing it. There's also just
Sure.
like a Protect the Kids coalition of like Lord knows who. But there's like various like anti-porn lobbying groups that have also pushed for this legislation kind of
Yeah.
all over the country. Um, and like we've seen with other laws, you kind of go like state by state by state. So it's essentially the same law being written by the same lobbyists, but being pushed through different states. The Texas one is really interesting though. You just had it
Hmm.
up. If you scroll up,
Yeah, let's
it's
do
like
it.
a lot of them just straight up say like, hey, you need to upload an ID to access this website. But the Texas one, if you try to go to porn sites in Texas, you get this big warning that says it's from the Texas Health and Human Services Commission that essentially says like porn is addictive. It will like break your brain in all of these different sorts of ways. And none of which is actually scientifically has any scientific backing. And then the actual Department of Texas Health and Human Services says that they had nothing to do with writing the language. It's like they're like, we don't know, we didn't approve this, we didn't do this. It's just straight up a lie.
wait,
Um,
wait. See, I was as you were talking, I was thinking, oh, let's go look at it, and then I realized we can't. I was genuinely thinking as we were talking, I was like, oh, I could just VPN into Texas, and then like just go to Pornhub, but we're on Twitch.
yeah,
Immediately, I'll get
yeah,
booted. So, well, maybe I
immediately.
wouldn't. Maybe I wouldn't actually because hopefully it wouldn't let me in. But if by some accidental chance that the VPN isn't working right, it would let me in. We would have a problem. I'm not going to do that. But yeah. Anyway, so there's a message. Yeah, we can just VPN. Yeah, just VPN into Texas server. I don't think you understand what I'm saying here. But yeah, so basically what you're saying here is that they put up a big warning message on the front page of Pornhub if you go there from Texas, and it shows you a warning from the Health and Human Services Department, but the health department said, I don't know
Yeah,
who wrote
and
this.
if you look at the language of the law, like the language of the law has the warning in it. and it says like this is a warning from the Texas Health and Human Services Department.
Yeah.
Literally, it was just written by the lawmaker, and the law like has the language. This comes from Texas Health and Human Services
Oh
Department.
my gosh.
Texas Health and Human Services Department is like, we have nothing to do with this. We didn't write this. We filed freedom of information requests with them. They don't have any documents about it. Like, there's no evidence that like any scientist of any sort was involved in this, that Texas Health and Human Services was involved in it. It is just like anti-porn propaganda that was written by the lawmakers or by the lobbyist group that wrote the law for the lawmakers.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so anyways, rather than comply with this law, like rather than say, okay, we will collect the ID, like the ages of everyone who visits our sites using this pretty invasive, like driver's license upload technology, ALO, which owns Pornhub and browsers and like a couple other ones, has simply blocked the site in Texas. It's like if
Mm.
you try to access it from a Texas IP, you get this long message that says like, call your lawmakers. We've decided to block ourselves rather than comply with this law because we don't agree with it, essentially. And they have now done that in like 6 or 7 different states.
Really?
Texas was the one where they were holding out. So like when I might get the states wrong because I don't have it in front of me, but like when Wyoming passed this law, like they were one of the first. Pornhub blocked themselves in Wyoming, but when Texas did this, they did not block themselves. And
Mm.
I think this is because Texas is, I believe, the second most populous state, if not second. It's like third or fourth. It's a huge state, where presumably, millions of people are accessing porn. And so I think that Pornhub was reticent to block itself there. Um, and then, I mean, long story short is like Texas sued Pornhub for not complying with this law. And then, which is just new, like 2 weeks ago, they sued
Mm.
Pornhub for not complying with this law. And then Pornhub is like, okay, we're going to block ourselves. And so now, if you live in Texas, you cannot access Pornhub unless you use a VPN, which, you know,
People
people
are
will.
people will absolutely do. There's a it'd be
That's the
really
message. It's like this really long message.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says dear user, as you may know. So this is the message from that goes if you go to one of these sites, if you go to Pornhub or whatever. It says, "Dear user, as you may know, your elected officials in Texas are requiring us to verify your age before allowing you access to our website." And it goes on and on and on and tells you to, yeah, we call on all adult sites to comply with the law. Until the real solution is offered, we've made the difficult decision to completely disable access to our website in Texas. Yeah, as Samir's saying in chat, it's harder to watch the hub than buy a gun in Texas. Yeehaw math indeed.
Yeah. I
I think that
mean,
actually might be, well, I mean, it's a good, I wonder if that's actually physically accurate, like literally accurate.
I think you can make the argument that it's comparable. It's like because I had thought the same thing, and it's like Samir, like smart to point it out. But the laws like preventing access to porn in some of these states are more stringent than like the laws that exist to get guns. Like
Yeah.
I think that is probably true. There's like more restrictions on porn. There's more restrictions on like library books at schools and stuff like that, which I think we will probably talk about. But